Welcome back to Now I See. We're continuing to discover Catherine and Gennadi's journey into Christ's light. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you.
So where we left off in the previous episode, we've learned a fair bit about both of your pasts and what your experiences have been, being raised both Catholic, and we've learned a fair bit about the motivation behind sometimes having Christ in your lives. Now I'd love to learn more about what has now brought you close to the church and close to Christ, and how that happened for both of you.
You first?
Well, it was actually Catherine that started attending, was it Sunday school? Sunday, or just some kind of
it was the mall.
Church group.
No,
let her tell
okay. I was at a mall, East Gardens Mall, Westfield, and I was at a pop-up playground for kids, and I went to get our eldest son, Zedekiah, and as I was reaching for him with his beautiful luscious curls, this child turned around. It was not my son. And I was so apologetic. I didn't know whose child's hair I was caressing, except the mum turned around, and just by the sight of her, I could tell she was Egyptian.
Yeah.
And then, but then when she spoke, she had an American accent, and she's a dear friend till today. And so I had mistaken my son for hers.
Wow.
And when I said, "Oh, are you Egyptian? Yeah. Are you American Egyptian? Like here?" And she said, "Yeah, she's married an Australian." And actually I realized in that journey of being repelled through my parents' experience that I had not connected with any Sudanese or Egyptian or any Coptic whatsoever. I did not have one friend from that nationality at all, except for my Sunday school teacher.
Wow.
So even me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think on a level that was by choice or on purpose?
I just felt that they had, the peers that would have been my age had conformed to that judgment because they were somehow thriving and surviving in it. I was repulsed by it, and I was an Eastern Suburbs raised girl that had nothing to do with that culture and community, except I knew the food, I knew the language, I knew the dance, but I just didn't want the stigmas and the judgment and the attire and how you should look and all the rest of it. So it dawned on me I was starved of someone that could relate, that wasn't an elder. Everything I knew about my culture was from an elder, nothing at my level.
Your level, yeah.
So she was, first time I met her, she made an introduction and invited me to go to church. She was like, "You should come to St. Luke's, and it's a new church in Sylvania. It's really cool. She mentioned something about mixed marriages. You know, it's open for marriages that have married out of the culture." And I thought, oh, that's cool, but definitely not me. You will never see me there. That was the first thing I thought. And then she invited me to a Bible study at one of the friends' places. And that would have been the second time I had ever gone to seen Egyptians or anyone my nationality at my age.
And she was telling me that she was going. She said, "I'm going to this Bible study group," and I think at the time I was just like, "Yeah, go for it, do whatever you want." And she was talking about it and everything like that, and she was enjoying it. She was happy. So
I was blown away.
That's
I was more
awesome.
like, how did you survive what I went through? How did you go through it? And you're okay. And I realized that my experience of my parents wasn't everybody's, and it was to a certain degree, but you know, actually the church was more proactive for some family experiences than it was for mine. So I took a liking to this bunch of peers, and then I was calling my friend on a weekend just to inquire what she was doing, and she said, "I'm at this other friend's house, why don't you come over?" And I was so excited. I was so excited to show Gennady, and I was like, "Babe, you got to come. Like, you got to check out this crowd."
Yeah.
We were childless then, so that was easier.
And I was turning it down. I was like, no, because I've never known the Arab world. Like in New Zealand, I grew up in West Auckland. It's Pacific Island Māori European.
Yes.
That's all it is. I had one Egyptian friend, and that's it.
Yeah, me too.
I only learnt about Lebanese bread when I came to Australia. So that's as much as I know about
Yes.
Arab and all that. So when, you carry on.
Yeah, anyway, we went to this friend's house and we hung out, and I mean, I was cool. Everyone was like, oh yeah, you're cool, you know. I don't know what was cool about me, but I was cool to a certain extent. As soon as Johnny opened his mouth, Barry White voice, guys were crushing on him. Girls, I don't know, but they were probably crushing on him. Everyone was just like, whoa, this guy, like it's like a tourist attraction on his own. Just on that level, aside from the Coptic church expectation or anything, just from that level, we met a bunch of cool people
Yes.
that are spiritually nourished and living their lives through Christ, proactive at this church, St. Luke's, and it was a fantastic exposure to something neither of us had seen or experienced, and it was refreshing.
Yes.
And I had kids too.
Yeah, they were
So
pretty
just
much in the same
on the
chapter.
same level, but just
Yes.
super cool people, man. Super cool
Yeah.
people. Yeah, really cool people.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so then, what was the next step? So now, have they managed to get you to church?
So she's got me a Bible study,
Yes.
right? And she's drawn me in, and I'm
And
sold
this
with the
cool-
people. The guys
yeah, the
are
people
just
are
super
cool.
cool people. Everyone's living life well, and kids, and we're relating.
Yes.
Honestly, and I've just like come up, like lifted my rock, and like all the Egyptians are here,
Yeah.
you know. So she got me to Bible study, and then she tried to get me to church.
No, hold on. I was invited. We were supposed to go together. I think you were sick, and I had to fulfill that commitment. I said I was going to go. I got to go. Keeping my word, I went, and I went dressing how I saw people get dressed when I was 12, when they were going to Coptic.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's another.
So
one, yeah.
Definitely skirt beneath the knees. I think it was no, it wasn't. I was wearing pants. It was formal-ish.
Yes.
Definitely high heels. There was a lot of attention to
So you were still in your brain conforming to those judgments because and those preconceived, like you'd put them upon yourself from all that time ago.
Even getting dressed today, every time I come across any sort of representation of Christ, I always wonder, is this going to be perceived as too much skin, too little, too modern, not conservative enough? But there's always something. So it's very embedded in me, and I have to just rewire or something. So I attended. It was absolutely not for me. I sat in the first row. Someone was explaining everything to me. I loved that they were speaking in English. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even it's still not even in an actual church hall. It's at a school hall. But the priests were so down to earth and relatable, and my age, which was shocking, but fantastic.
Yeah.
But I have to say, the service was so long. I was not familiar. I was not comfortable. So with that experience, first time attending church, I ruled it out. I went home to Gennady, and I had assumed on his behalf for him when I gave him the feedback that it is not for you, babe. You won't like it. Just don't worry about it. It's too long. You're not going to get it. It's fine. And I can't remember how you ended up arriving at church.
I can't remember either.
It was definitely another invitation, probably from our friend, of course. Very persuadant and persistent. And Gennady ended up coming, and I think the feedback after that church service blew my mind.
Yeah, so I attended my first service at St. Luke's, and we sat in the back row, and I went in, and the first thing I noticed straight off the bat was prams everywhere and kids. And straight away I felt pretty comfortable, like we weren't in a place where there were older people and everyone had to, everyone knew what they were doing. And we had a 2-year-old at the time. So it was relatable. I saw people that were my age. I think I was, actually when I walked through the door, I thought I was going to be the first Fijian Coptic in the world, but I walked through the door and lo and behold there's another Fijian at the door, and as tall as me, and shook my hand, and we related and made friends.
They hired him for the day.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But yeah, so I remember being in the service, being totally new to the whole thing, but I straight away became very, very curious in that service, and that curiosity grew to me coming back the next week and then connecting with the priests. And I started asking questions about the service. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And I could start to relate to bits and pieces, but it was a long service. But there were pieces that I was pulling out of it that I thought were really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And parts of those services that you can pull out, they're beautiful, but you can also apply them every day. So that's each Sunday I was going, I was finding really beautiful pieces to learn about, and it just kept me going right up until the point where we were anointed into the church or baptized.
Well, actually, before we were anointed or baptized, we had baptized our son.
Oh, yeah.
Because Gennady had really taken a liking to the church, and we were at a point of, I guess, it was a crossroad of decisions for where our journey was at and what we were going to impression on our child.
Yeah, we were questioning everything.
Everything.
It opened up such a big... See, where we came from, like we talked about where we came from, we're in a different phase of life now.
Yes.
So as parents, we're thinking about Christianity, and we're questioning everything.
Yeah.
So I remember we had full-on conversations at home. Like
I was ready to dedicate.
Opening books and Bibles and everything, just reading a lot. You were doing, I'm a bad reader. She was reading a lot and pulling up information, and we just had discussion after discussion.
And spiritual debates, even with
spiritual
the priests.
Spiritual debates,
I couldn't wrap my head around the concept of baptism being, I didn't understand if it was culturally imposed, because no one could tell me that, you know, my child's soul would perish if he wasn't baptized. And that, I'm a very black and white kind of character, and grey zones, well, if it was going to be a grey zone and no one could say for certain, I was going to do everything. Catholic baptism, Coptic baptism,
cover all
Pentecostal dedication. I'll do it all.
Yes.
Just to cover all my bases, because no one is sure. But it was a challenging space. But I went with Gennady's flow on that. He was very determined. He actually came. I remember you came home.
Yeah.
It shocked me.
Sitting at dinner.
Yeah, we were sitting at dinner, just at home, and well, you tell them.
Yeah, well, so we sat down at dinner. I just really had it on my heart and my mind, and it grew organically at first, and then I started to look back at my own parents and how they were always supportive. They were just there, always there. They were always going to church, from Catholic to Pentecostal church, and then they were always feeding us with, you know, wisdom and spiritual wisdom, all that. But they were never pushy. They were always just supportive. You come into church this Sunday, hungover, whatever. But they were never pushing us to go to church. So I started to look at the way my dad instilled God in us in church, and I wanted to do the same with my family. So I sat down with Catherine one night, and we were at dinner, and then I just said to her, I said, look, I really want to commit to this church. I love it. I love the community, the people, and I love what I'm getting out of it. And I really want our kids to be in a community and an environment where everyone shares the same values. Because before this church, we were in a community or around people that they kind of had the same values as us, but not exactly.
Yeah.
And my dad always says, you know, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
So that was my belief and my concept, still is today. So yeah, we sat down.
Your words were so clear in my mind.
Yeah, I was adamant. I just said, this is the direction I want to go. I wasn't pulling her.
That was the word you used, yeah. He actually said, this is the direction I want to lead our family in. Yeah. And if I could feel like, I don't know, a rush of attraction, like this man has experienced it, and he's taken a decision of his own journey, and he's wanting the best for us, and this is the best he's seen. So I was like, sure, take my hand, let's go.
Yeah.
So that's the direction we moved in from that point. It's a bit harder now with 3 kids getting up in the morning. That's the challenge, especially after COVID and all that. It kind of fell out of routine, but we're still committed. We're still there. We're still committed.
Yeah. We might finish the episode there, and then we'd love to have you back and discover more about your journey. So thank you for joining us. Thank you. Please join us again for the next episode of Now I See.